Hey there. Welcome to another episode of Heart and Hustle, Visionary Healers, Movers, and Shakers. I am your host, Paulette Rees-Denis, here to bring you magic makers from around the globe, people who are creating change, who have small businesses, large businesses, hobbies, but they are creating the life of their dreams. And that, my friends, is what living is all about. So let us know how you like this episode. Please subscribe, and we'll see you there. Thanks for joining. Okay, hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Heart and Hustle. We are visionaries and healers and movers and shakers, and we are creating change in the world. I am your host, Paulette Rees-Denis. I am your magic maker and your movement motivator and your lifestyle coach and your tribal belly dancer and author and poet and all the things. But I get to bring you, again, more exciting people who are creating change in the world. And that is my passion. I love people's stories. I love hearing how people went from hustle to heart. And I love introducing them to you. So today I get to introduce you to Simon Calderbank from the UK, which is also very exciting. So he's in his afternoon. I'm in my morning. We're all good. We're fabulous. Simon, thank you for joining me, for being here.
No, thank you. And what I loved your intro. Absolutely loved that. Yeah. Everything you said was just, yeah, hustle to the heart for me was straight away. I'm thinking, right, what was my hustle? And there's many. I'm sure we'll cover
Oh,
those
good.
in
Well, let's hit on some
conversation.
of those. So let's introduce yourself to our people. And we are on similar paths, which is also really beautiful. I love that. I love sharing the coaching world and the empowerment world and making things better world. so, so I see reflect, reframe, reinvent behind.
Yeah.
So
The
talk to me.
re the re3 effect is a process that I've always found it's really helped support me when I've ever had curveballs come my way as we do in life. So it just made sense to kind of give it I suppose, a realness. And yeah, I think it was during lockdown, as you know, we were all kind of stignified to think, well, what do we do now? We can't be doing what we normally do, which is out in front of people, serving people. The online world had always been there, but no one had really, in the coaching profession, had really seemed to master it. So, like most of us, I had to redesign everything I did. So, I went through a big refresh of a rebrand. And the people I worked with, I coached their team because they were all in lockdown. A lot of people suffered greatly. In terms of creatives, they also found the transformation from where we were to lockdown uncomfortable. So my friend said, "Can you please coach my team? But I've got no money." I was all, "Yeah, that sounds like a normal sort of problem at the moment. Most people's revenue streams just disappeared." So I said, "Well," he said, "I can do that." He said, "But I'm in need of a rebrand." He said, "And guess what? I've got no money either because all my clients have just disappeared." So we struck this deal where I coached all his team through a mindset program and they rebranded me. But what we did first was the rebrand. So they got to understand who I was, how I operated. And it was together we came up with this process called the Re 3 Effect framework,
Oh, I
because
love it. I love
I'd lived through that. I'd always reflected. I'd then realized what I'd learned. Okay, how do I reframe how I think and change my perspective? And from that, normally is a reset or a reinvention. And they went, well, there it is then, the re 3 effect. I was all, well, that was simple. And then they then took that framework and then we built it. And then that's what I coach. Is nothing groundbreaking in there. It's just how we position it and how we get people to do the most, for me, the most foundational thing is to reflect on where they are, where they've come from, and how they've got to where they are now. Only then can we then ask them to start thinking things differently.
Right.
So that's the process, and I love it. And I always like to have it on, a few light bulbs maybe going off, and it's really about just that's what I am. That's what I've always kind of breathed, and it only made sense to then share that with clients.
Yeah, I love it. I love the rewords anyway. I love
You know?
reflect. And I use the word rewrite a lot because we
Yeah,
get to rewrite our stories.
exactly. And
We
sometimes that
invent, we rewrite, we make it what we want it to be.
exactly, and that the idea of re-editing, and I even ask people sometimes, and again, it has to be controlled, is to look back and sometimes re-edit the story that they've carried with them for years and think about how they could reframe the scenario and the scene about where they were, what they were seeing, what they were feeling, and if that then could have a sort of a change or a transformation on how they move forward. Because what I find is lots of people have fixed behaviors that usually have been triggered from something way, way back. And it's getting them to go back and revisit what might be uncomfortable and to then, with guidance, to say revisit that reword again and then sometimes
Love it.
rewrite.
And
And it's
I think that's so important for us as we have gotten older, right? Because now we are in that re phase.
yes, yeah.
You know,
I've certainly
may not understand that. They're in the process of inventing themselves, right? But we don't stay the same. I think that's so important for people to realize that their old dreams are not their new dreams.
I know. And an old friend of mine said, when you write your book, I was all okay. She said, I've got the perfect title for you. And I was all, go on then. I think of all things. And she said, you are the master of reinvention.
Ah,
What do you mean by that? She went, well, again, that bloody word re again, re. She said, I've never met anyone who can move from different sort of career paths so effortlessly as you do. Said you've, and there's the hustles. I've had so many hustles in my previous, but all those hustles have enabled me to be the person I am today and to do the things I do today. Without those hustles, I wouldn't have half my stories, half my life experience, context, disappointments, failures. So all the things I've done, all those pathways I've followed, she said, that's who you are. She said, and now you've reinvented yourself as this breakthrough coach, transformation coach, mindset coach. And he said, all the things that you've done have brought you to where you are now. All the ingredients, the piece of the jigsaw, are now firmly in place. He said, and I've known you since you were 18. This is what you were destined to do. But none of us knew that until you got to this place. I was like,
yes.
"Wow, okay. So therefore, you feel vindicated, and it validates when people that you've always respected and trusted kind of give you that perspective. You think, yeah, this is who I am now. And you look back on some of the crazy adventures you've had when you were younger, and some of the scrapes you got into, and you think, oh, okay, because it helps.
Simon, what's been some of the hustle for you?
So again, sorry.
What's been some of the hustle for
I
you?
think well, I always look at hustles in a favorable light. I always see them as good things. And I think my favorite hustle was when I ran nightclubs in Manchester. So I was a nightclub promoter, and my title, obviously unbeknown to me, was Mr. Saturday Night. That's what I was known as. So people used to call me Mr. Saturday Night. But I was also I had a second label, which was the most sensible club promoter in Manchester.
Oh, fantastic.
Because what I did was I made sure that I looked after people. So where I worked, we were open 6 nights a week. And everyone said, oh, you've got the best job. What a career. You're just out partying all night. And I'd be all, you don't know the half of it. I
Right.
said, for what you experience Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes we'd have 2,000 people in a night. I said, that takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of planning, a lot of work, a lot of organizing, a lot of trust in your team. I said, so I'm probably sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night and I'm doing a full day's work. And then I'm being the host of an evening where, I want to make sure that every single person has the best night. That as if every person is a guest of mine, like I'm bringing them into my house. So for me, that hustle was time consuming. It was a labor of love. I loved the music, but I didn't do it for the music. I did it because it gave me a chance to serve people in a way that I only realize now what I was doing. I wanted people to be happy. I
Mm,
wanted people to celebrate and rid themselves of all the crap that was kind of going on in the sort of late 80s, early 90s in the UK and in the world. And for me, nightclubs were a perfect platform for people to I suppose, leave the troubles at the door and just let their hair down, quite literally.
Mhm.
And at the time, the whole transformation of, white men can't dance. All of a sudden, white men could dance because they were enabled by, MDMA. And that was the late 80s, early 90s. So all that kind of that era was just that was our punk. Rave and nightclub culture was our punk culture. And I grew up in punk, but I was too young to appreciate. I was too young for that hustle. So I knew my time would come. I just didn't know where it was. And it was the late 80s, early 90s. And that was my heyday. And yet I was sensible, I was careful, occasionally carefree, but I really made sure that I'd always, I'd be the last person to go to the party, even though I was hosting the party.
Yeah. Well, I think there's so many, I mean, there's so many facets of our world and work and stuff, and people don't really, if they don't, if they're not in it, they don't really understand what goes behind it. They see the
No,
front cover. I mean, because I was early 80s. I was in a band in the early 80s, and my husband's a punk rock bass player. And so and
brilliant.
I managed bands and we performed all the time and blah, blah, blah. But um, it's so much work,
Oh,
so much work. But what's the reward?
yeah. 2,000 happy people.
Oh,
That was my reward of people and win. You'd win awards or best night of the year or best, and they were lovely, but they were more for the team. They were more for the people who did the banners, who did the light show, who did the sound, or who booked the artists. That was for them because they were the unsung heroes in my eyes. They were all the ones that never got the plaudits. So the awards were also, you've earned this, you've deserved. Yeah, but you organise it. Yeah, but I'm just one person. I wear this hat, you wear your hats, and together we become a real force and a real collective. So yeah, seeing people happy, enjoying themselves. They probably weren't happy the next day usually because they were usually
better
smashed.
than that. But
But
just a little bit of aside. So we did play with a lot of UK bands. So we opened up for The Damned. We opened
oh
up for
my God,
Mercy, Sex Gang Children. I mean, plethora. The Lords of the New Church.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, you've got my utmost respect. Oh, that's brilliant. What was the band called?
But um, that's just
What was it? Yeah, but that's a lovely hustle, though, isn't it? That's a hustle that's and you never forget that hustle. You never lose sight of what you did because of the memories.
oh, it was great. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I didn't sleep.
So
I didn't sleep for years, I don't think, but but
I remember those nights as well. But you did it because it was just enjoyable, and it was the ability just to, I suppose, was it a revolution? I think rave was a big evolution in this country because there was so much crap flying around in the UK in terms of politics and social economics. So music was a force, I suppose, to be embraced, but also as a force to be reckoned with. And I know there was a lot of legislation in the UK that wanted to dampen down the rave scene and the dance scene. And all that did was just fuel the fires even further. Therefore, the more that government and the law wished to quell the uprising, the more it uprose. It was like, well, why don't you just let it? Why don't you just help police it as opposed to policing it? Work with us as opposed to against us, and then the world would be a much nicer place. But as you know, without I suppose that the balance was that, well, them against us, and therefore it creates a more of a collective spirit amongst us. Yeah, we used to we'd be watched every single night by
yeah.
plenty.
Well,
But
that's what's happening over here these days. So,
yeah, well,
ah,
big crazy, but yeah, it never stopped us. We were always respectful, but it never stopped us doing what which was our given right, which was to work hard and play hard. And I think, and that's say one of the best hustles I did. It's where I met so many fascinating people. I met some, let's say, some interesting characters
yeah,
as well. But
it's just
um,
so exciting.
yeah, yeah, exactly, because it made every day different because you never knew who was going to come through the door or what connections you'd make. My one regret, Paulette, is I wish I'd kept the little black, my big thick black book, because in those days it was business cards, or
Mm.
that's the one regret, and I've not got many, is that I'd wish I'd kept hold of all those connections. A lot of them are in here. Some of them have passed away now, so they're in here. But yeah, when you see them, you think, oh my God, there's Steve. Oh my God, look what Steve's doing now. And to think Steve will be looking at me thinking, oh, I can't believe he's become this person. He looks at, so again, that's the only thing I would, yeah, I wish I'd been more proactive in keeping connection with those
Emotions.
characters.
Emotions. Oh my goodness. How
But
what the things, the phases we go through to be creative and to live a full life and to make people happy and to empower people and ourselves, right?
that helps. It's important that self-love is the biggest love. And once you master self-love and self-compassion, I think everything else after that becomes, not saying it's straightforward, but comes a lot easier. So for me, looking in the mirror a lot in terms of my who am I, what am I doing, am I comfortable with who I am, enables me then to, answer those questions and then deliver that to others. So for me, self-love, your self-image, it's important that you're aware of who you are and how you operate and why you operate to then be able to support other people. Otherwise, it becomes kind of like just like lip service.
Yeah.
So you've got to be true to yourself before you can help other people be true to themselves. So, and again, all that experience, like you've said, I mean, working in the nighttime industry, it's very different. And I've done daytime, I've done the whole what I'd call the 9 to 5 corporate world. But I yearn for those days where it was like anything could happen. It was, you were on the edge. You were in control, but you were always on the edge of something exploding or just going down a different rabbit hole. But in those days, there was no social media. There
Oh,
was
I know,
hardly
right?
mobile phones.
Yeah. I mean, I started my dance company and there was no computers, you know. Like
Ah,
now,
that's it.
now I have an international company and it's fantastic.
God, I never thought this conversation would take us back to the 80s and 90s. So thank you for that.
We're reflecting.
We are, and now we're going to reframe, aren't we, and reinvent ourselves as who. But I've not changed. I've just evolved.
Yeah.
I've just evolved into this. I still bring with me all that experience and all those memories and all those learnings as well, and then I just apply them when necessary. You never know when you might need to pull back a story from 1991 May. Just don't know. But it will serve someone's purpose. Mine, families, you, friends, clients. And that's the tapestry that we've built for ourselves. So this idea of master of reinvention, I'm thinking, I'm so pleased. And she said, yeah, each chapter will be your career pathway. And I
Yes.
was like,
That
right, okay.
segment.
So
So,
yeah,
what's your next chapter?
this one, this one. I want a long chapter where I can actually, it'd be a long read because I've really enjoyed and I'm really enjoying supporting women leaders. And I do work with men as well, but I get so much more joy working with women. And
Why is that?
long story short, I was raised by 3 women. So I was the boy that my dad left when I was 4, and he wasn't, let's say, he wasn't the best role model, from what I recall. So my mum and sister were my sort of key influences, and then when my grandma passed away, my auntie moved in with us. So I had 3 very different women who helped shape my behaviours and helped shape my learnings and my responses to life as an 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 year old. And I never realized that when I started coaching, it always seemed that I'd work more with women. And I made the assumption, as you do, that, well, sort of the industries that I'm working in, the people who normally procure me are usually from HR, and HR is predominantly more female led in the UK. And I just thought, oh, it's because it's more the things I do, the sort of the mindset work, the vulnerability work. Women are more comfortable with that. And that it fit. And it was only till my auntie passed 3 years ago that I actually stopped because I did her eulogy. So I went back through her life. And of course, going back through her life meant going back through mine. And, like when the penny starts to drop and you're thinking, this woman, she didn't raise me, but she influenced me. And my mum, of course, and you kind of are thinking, well, is it any surprise I'm drawn to women when I was brought up in a matriarchal household? Therefore, all my touch points were women. So, I mean, and I look back and I got so much stick at school for not having a dad. I got name called, mentally bullied. And back in those days, there was no mental health. You just got on with it. You just dealt with it. You either sank or you swam. So I decided to make people laugh by being stupid, by being the entertainer. And that seemed to work. It worked for me. But where I am now, though, is down to those three women, and it's helped give me, I suppose, a probably more empathy than most men because I was drowned in it as a young boy and as a teenager. Whenever I had problems, I'd always get the female perspective of how to deal with them. So there was always reasoning, there was always support, there was always deep empathy. There was never aggression, there was never violence, there was never, well, it was always understand the other person, see it from their point of view. And at the time, I just thought, well, that's the way we do things. That's how it is. So for me, I've always been shaped like that. Therefore, I'm always drawn because it's almost as if it's my legacy to repay, I suppose, the debt of love and gratitude and learnings that those three women afforded me. And it
Oh, I
feels like,
love that so much, Simon. I mean, that's a great story, but it also shows the power of women uh, raising you, raising children or whatever. Uh, and I mean, wow, that's really beautiful.
and my mum's probably, she's got Alzheimer's now, and she's content. She's happy, but it's not my mum anymore. It is, but she's like the shadow version, and every now and then you'll get that little moment of, oh, I can't believe you've not shaved again, and you're thinking, oh God, she's back, and then she'll go, where's Simon?
Oh,
You think, well, I'll grab those moments. So my auntie's passed on. My sister is still, my sister. She's still my big sister, but she's now become a deep friend, someone that I really, can rely upon and trust. And she's a great support for me and a great role model as well. I mean, she'll probably cringe when she hears this, but she is. She's been a great. She was an influence when I was a teenager, and she's an influence now when I became a dad. She was really helpful and thoughtful, and without realizing it, I modeled myself. Yeah, I did on how she parented. So that for me, that's because you learn off the people that you trust and respect. And also when you see my nephew and niece, they've turned out beautifully and happy, grounded. And I thought, I want my children to be like that. So
oh,
you model, and my two are they're very different to my nephew and niece, but they've got so many similarities, it's untrue. And I suppose that's that conditioning, that positive conditioning that I've taken from Tracy and applied, into my world and little mannerisms and habits and processes that you're thinking, why does she do that? Ah, that's why she does it. So yeah, you take the good, I suppose, and you think, I'll leave some stuff behind. But so yeah, women have always played a big role in my life, not just from a romantic perspective, but from a bringing up, a raising, an influencing, and say, I look at my client list and it's predominantly women. They create the best stories.
a good perspective for the women.
Yeah, they've got a different energy, very different energy to men. They look at the world through a different lens. And I'm not saying that women aren't like men. There's lots of crossover, but I know which way I lean, and I prefer the company of women. It's just easier.
Oh, there you
It's more.
go.
It, it's just more, and I suppose it makes perfect sense because that's kind of what I was brought up with. So there's no shock. People do ask me, particularly new clients, and say, "Well, why should I work with a man?" I said, "Well, why wouldn't you?" I said, "Because hundreds of other women have." And I said, "And I can understand that potential slight apprehension at first." I said, but
It's a good question.
yeah, my perspective is steeped in a man, so I understand how the male psyche works because I am one. And I've worked around enough male leaders to understand the nuances and differences, and I do a lot of behavioral profiling work. I said, but I also see the world through a very empathetic perspective. So I give you quite a nice hybrid. I said, I'm like a bridge. Someone called me a bridge. I think, wow,
Oh, that's nice.
another chapter, the bridge. So the bridge from how men are and to how women want to be heard. So sometimes I can be that, hopefully be a
Oh,
conduit for
that's
them.
good. Yeah.
And that's all I want because that fulfills my purpose of listening to understand people and then being able to serve them in terms of what they need and what they want to achieve. So it kind of rolls back round to when I was a nightclub promoter. What was my purpose? Well, I like being out, I like socializing, but I also like to see other people having a good time and fulfilling their needs. I just did it en masse, 2,000 people, sometimes four or
Thanks.
five nights. That was my fuel. My fuel now, or my dopamine hit, is very different, but it's still steeped in the same foundations of helping people, serving people, and making sure that I leave a good, lasting, positive legacy on anybody and everybody that I come into contact with. Because I don't want my auntie looking down or my mum going, why did you do that? Why didn't you do what you know you're good at? So it's kind of, I want my kids to look at me and go, that's our dad. Occasionally behave like a buffoon, but on the whole, he did good and he made people, he had a purpose
Yeah.
and he lived it. And not, that's all I want them to look at me and say, yeah, well done, Dad.
That's
You
great.
know,
That's great. I
yeah.
mean, that's what, what else could we want? Right?
Yeah, just I suppose recognition of the people that you bring into the world, and I brought them into the world with with my their mum, my ex now, to make the world a better place. That was my key driver for having children, was so that we could kind of teach them and guide them in terms of what we believe was the right moral compass, and therefore they would then do the same, and the ripple effects of that, hopefully, would live on. And there's, and they are so far they've turned out they're still teenagers, but yeah. If I think when I was a teenager, they're nothing like me.
We
A
won't
lot more grounded.
be there. Oh my
But
gosh.
they'll evolve, I'm sure they will. But at the moment, yeah, they're in good places, and that's testament not just to me and the mum, but also to their other influence, their other family members and peers, and school teachers and guardians and football coaches and dance teachers. You put your kids in the right environments, and then you watch them shine, and that I feel that's just, and then hopefully they'll take the same learnings and
In
apply
a
it to
way,
them.
you're a coach to them too, because you're trying to help them find their passions and giving them different ideas and inspirations and direction
Yeah,
and
and
opportunities to try things.
yeah,
We all need opportunities to try things, to be a
yeah.
possibilitarian.
Oh wow, a possibilitarian.
Yeah,
That's
good.
the first time I've heard that.
Yeah, I use that one a lot.
I might borrow that. This is Paulette's a possibilitarian. That's brilliant.
Yeah,
My,
I mean,
my daughter think probably a new zodiac sign. I'll say, no, no, it's just this is who we are. This is what life is full of opportunities, and I want them to not grab all of them, but to have the ability to choose the ones that
to make a choice, to make
exactly.
a choice. But we gotta listen to this first so we can feel what choices seem right for us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Hey,
completely.
wow, Simon, this is so good. So,
No.
so you're gonna keep coaching. You're gonna write a million chapters.
Yeah, that's the plan. And probably try and break some personal bests on the fitness race front. I never thought 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that I would be as fit as I am, as healthy as I am. So it's amazing. Again, we go through cycles, don't we? And you look back and think, would my 45-year-old self said that to me at 58, really? So I put myself, well, I want to test out my physical resilience as well as my mental resilience. So I do, yeah. There'll be a chapter on the man who the man who taught himself that everything was achievable. Because that's what I help teach my clients. So I just say I practice what I preach, and I've done stuff that I never imagined I'd do in terms of my physical outputs. But I love it. It's great, and it gives you a real sense of achievement as well as I suppose, a sense of that everything is possible. Just need to make sure you've got the right ingredients and you've got the right people around you to support you through that and nurture you and guide you and sometimes challenge you.
I
So
think
yeah,
think, well, movement is so important anyway. And so,
Yeah.
you guys out there in Heart and Hustle Land, Simon was telling me earlier that he's going on 2 runs tonight. So I thought he was talking about rum, but he's talking about running.
Yeah. My alcohol consumption is a lot lower than it. In fact, it's almost nil. Again, another shift, another evolution of. Yeah, I used to really enjoy the effects of alcohol, whereas now it just doesn't. Not interested.
So
And
58 now? Is that right? Is that what you said?
say again, sorry.
You're 58?
58. Yeah, I feel a lot younger. I never feel my age. I always
Yeah,
feel who I am, and yeah, at the
that's
minute,
great. Well, because you're loving yourself, you're taking care of yourself. So I just turned 68.
whoa. I want to be like you when I'm 68, please. Then you're looking good.
I run every morning, walk and run every morning. I work out, I teach yoga and dance. You know, it's all the things that make me feel good.
Exactly. And when you were in the band all those years ago, did you ever think that you'd be the person you are now?
Well, yes and no. I think I always knew that I needed to be independent, and I was
Uh-huh.
a creator, photographer, writer, musician, dancer. Um, but I didn't think I'd have a global dance company.
Oh, that's amazing.
I didn't think I'd publish 4 books. I mean, I didn't think about it really back then. I just played music and went to art school and, you know, just had a good time. And I still have a good time.
Yeah, just doing different things.
And sometimes doing the same things. You know,
Yeah.
I still write, I still play music, I still, dance, I still do a lot of those things. But it's evolved as I've evolved, as I've grown older, my body has changed. We take care of ourselves in a different way.
Hmm.
Frame. I
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
this thing behind you. So my coaching practice is called Movement, Momentum, and Magic.
Alliterations are so underrated.
I know, isn't it great? So I love it. So this
Movement,
is great.
moment,
Anyway, Simon,
magic.
thanks for being here.
No, no, thank you for putting me on. It's been lovely to finally get to meet each other and realize that we've probably had more in common than we probably first realized.
There's a
The
lot.
hustle of life. No, it's been good. I've really enjoyed it. It's been giving me a buzz and giving me another impetus to go and stretch my legs tonight and run.
Oh,
Yeah, I think I'm going to do the double hit. Why not? What's the worst that could happen?
so anyway, what a delight and a pleasure. And
Thank you.
everybody out in Heart Hustle Land, I will give you all of Simon's contacts. I do have lots of people over in the UK. And where are you in the UK?
I'm in the northwest. I'm in Manchester.
North, northwest. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been over there teaching several times, but I still don't know my geography very well. And
It's only a small country. The UK is compared to where you are, we're tiny, but it's tiny, but it's busy, and it's got a lot of well, it's going through a lot of turmoil at the moment, sort of socially and politically. But in terms of culturally, it's good. There's a lot of good stuff that happens here. Music, especially. Yeah, so I love where I'm from, and Manchester's a city that when you come to Manchester, you are adopted. That's what makes it beautiful. You become an adopted Manc. So anytime you're over, if you do ever hit the northwest and you think, oh, Manchester, just let me know and you'll be given a,
okay. All
a
right.
reverent
Have fun.
reception. We'll take you to a gig. Not that you'll probably take us to a gig actually, but yeah, no, keep in touch. It's nice to meet kindred spirits.
And I'm so glad to be able to, have this conversation with you and introduce you to my people and
Yeah,
everybody. Just, live your best life, right? Live your best life.
exactly. Exactly. And have no regrets.
That's so good. So, all right, everybody, thank you for being here too. Paulette Rees-Denis here, signing off with Simon Calderbank. And until we meet again, many blessings. I love you.